Hey everybody, welcome to DadsDen of Pop Culture. We're going to be looking today at one of my favorite pieces of animation. I first saw this film, Rock and Rule, when I was probably in like junior high range, 13, 14 years old. And the place that heavy metal holds for a lot of people, Rock and Rule probably holds for me, since I didn't see heavy metal till many years later. I was able to get like a copy at a convention. So this is a Canadian animated film. It didn't do great in the box office. It wasn't well marketed. I want to say Paramount had it. But also, I think it's one of those kind of films that's maybe a little too grown up for a lot of parents at the time, 1983, to want to take their kids to, but maybe not grown up enough, like say a Ralph Bakshi movie, for a lot of grown-ups to want to go to. So it was in a sort of middle zone, but I think it's really an amazing film. Produced by Michael Hirsch and Patrick Lubert, founders of Nelvana. Directed by Clive A. Smith, also a founder of Nelvana. Also did The Devil and Daniel Mouse. And 8 episodes of Family Dog. Remember that one? It was a great little, started out as an episode of Amazing Stories. Really good. Screenplay by John Halfpenny and Peter Souter, who had done work for Inspector Gadget, Care Bears, Strawberry Shortcake, Droids, Beetlejuice, Rolie, Polie, Olie. So not exactly the most adult fare. Now, the voices are real good in this, but while the singing voices have some big names behind them, the just normal character voices, not as well known, say, to the general public. Our villain that we see kind of up on top there, voiced by Don Franks, who did Boba Fett in Droids, Sabretooth in the X-Men cartoon back in the 90s. He's also the father of Cree Summer. Now, so Lou Reed does the singing voice of Mog. A couple pretty good songs. Omar is our little hero down there holding the guitar. Voiced by Greg Salata in Canada. In the United States, Paramount decided to redub his voice by Paul Lamont, who played John Milner in American Graffiti. Angel, who we see right in the middle there, voiced by Susan Roman, who apparently was a runner-up to play Chrissy Snow in Three's Company. Interesting. And she's done lots of anime and cartoon voice work. Singing voice done by Debbie Harry. We got songs in it from Cheap Trick, Debbie Harry, Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, Earth, Wind, and Fire. And this thing, like I said, kind of a commercial failure. $8 million budget back in 1983. Grossed just over $30,000, which is just really sad. It has become something of a cult film over time. So let's remove our little poster. Let's bring up some images. We're going to go through this one. And there are going to be spoilers in this one, just so you know. But even with the spoilers, worth watching for the animation. Just a fun, funky little cartoon. So, as I mentioned, a Nelvana production. We get the title, Rock and Rule. And the first thing we see in the American theatrical cut, which is what I'm going to be going through because it's what I know best, we get this preamble, which, by the way, that almost looks like the font they used for Star Trek The Next Generation to me. And the preamble tells us there was obviously some kind of nuclear war. So this is post-apocalyptic. The survivors are street animals who evolve into something more humanoid. So Mock, a legendary super rocker, has retired to Ohmtown. And there his computers work at deciphering an ancient code which would unlock a doorway between this world and another dimension. Obsessed with his dark experiment, Mock himself searches for the last crucial component. A very special voice. That gives you a really nice setup of what we're about to see. So we finally get some actual imagery here, though, at this point. Kind of looks like a castle, a sort of castle-like building, if you will. Lightning, very nice, very evocative stuff. And then we finally get some voices. We hear Mock's lackeys, his servants, excited that they are finally home after traveling all over the country, auditioning that special voice, which obviously people think it's like a talent search. They don't know what he's really after. But it turns out, well, there's one more voice to listen to. Well, at least one more place to go and take a look. And that's right there in ohmTown, a little club that they're going to go check out. And Toad, sort of the leader of his lackeys, voiced by Chris Wiggins, isn't happy. But he gets the car and pulls it around. And we get a shot of Toad here when Mock yells at his computer, which is voiced by Samantha Langevin, to stop while she's telling him about his dropping record sales. He's not interested in that. And of course, Toad also stops and Mock's then yelling at him. Mock is obviously not a very nice guy. The computer imagery is very cool. Looks like a sort of digital 3D effect. I don't know if it was actually digital at all, if it was maybe just drawn, but they get that image, it'll that sort of weird face. And you notice there's kind of a pentagram in there. Will sort of rotate as it speaks a little bit. And so, one among many great character designs. The backgrounds look great. It's a really pretty movie. So the computer informs him that no progress has been made on their special project. They must have that special voice to unlock the Armageddon key. Well, that doesn't sound good. And this will open a doorway for a being to enter their dimension. And the computer has designed a ring that will detect this voice when it hears it. So obviously Mock is going to be wearing that ring. So the ring's going to let them know when they have finally found this one person they need. They arrive at this sort of little dive bar. Mock notes that this powerful being will be a scientific breakthrough for him and an unbelievable magic show for the masses. And now we enter the dressing room of the dive bar and we see our protagonists. This is Angel, like I said, voiced by Susan Roman. And in the background there, playing on his guitar, is Omar, again, voiced by Paul LeMarche in the American version. And they're going to do one song tonight. This sort of it's kind of a talent show. Almost seems like an open stage kind of thing. Open mic, I guess it would be. And of course, it's going to be Omar's song. But if they did a second song, it would be Angel's, right? And Omar's like, yeah. Omar, I'm going to trust you. But she kind of knows, and that's where we get this little sort of as Omar turns around, she sticks her tongue out at him. So there's kind of this new wave punk aesthetic in the film. And I think they do a pretty good job with it. The imagery, everything in it kind of feels right to me. We then meet the other two members of the band, Dizzy, voiced by Dan Hennessy, and Stretch, he's got the hat on there, voiced by Greg Duffel. Stretch is weird. Dizzy is smart. Basic archetypes, but they work here. And we also glimpse what he's doing there is playing this sort of 3D video game. It's very fractal. It's kind of, to be honest, what we thought the future of video games was going to look like in 1983. It's reminiscent of the Star Wars game where, all the lines and all that stuff, which was just super cool. We didn't know it was going to be all kind of photorealistic one day. And then we see Mylar. Now, Mylar is, he owns the bar. He's the MC here, voiced by Martin Lavu. He introduces the band. And then we get them doing a Cheap Trick song. Very cool sort of, choreography on it. Very nice animation-wise. Mylar does not like the song, so he cuts them off, cuts the power. And they're kind of, obviously these are electric instruments, so that doesn't really work. Omar is really pissed off, so he threatens Mylar And Mylar decides, well, I guess I'll let them back on. So Omar wants to do the same song again, but Angel steps up. No, Omar, my song. He ignores her, but she kind of hijacks the set. So we're getting a little bit of the character dynamic between these two. I'll be honest with you. I like her song a lot better. Debbie Harry, great. And of course, you know, you kind of get the feeling like she's maybe the more mature of the duo, you know, even though you got to think these guys are kind of like, I don't know, somewhere in the 18 to early 20s. So none of them are necessarily all that mature. So Angel is singing. Omar stomps off in the middle of the song. She continues. And this is when Mylar discovers that Mock, the super rocker, is in his club. And so as she's singing, Mylar is schmoozing with Mock, and Mock's ring begins to flash. This is the voice that he was searching for. And we get our first glimpse of Mock in the strobe of the blinking light from the ring. A nice, very kind of demonic look there for the character. So now Mylar continues schmoozing with, Mylar goes and starts schmoozing with Stretch and Dizzy, you know, I'm going to make you big stars, that kind of thing. We see Omar out back sort of, pouting because he didn't get his way. So when the boys leave the club, Angel had, left on her own. They're followed in their car by a mysterious vehicle. And note, this is them driving past an animated sign, kind of like a neon sign, touting Mock's new album, Rock and Rule, which, by the way, would be a very cool name for an album. Well, it turns out that it's actually just the local police officer. He passes them and moves on. So Omar decides to kind of wander off. And then we see Angel sitting on the sidewalk, kind of bummed out about what happened. She finally gets to do her song, and her boyfriend stomps off to pout and have a pity party. And Omar shows up, and, she just wants him to leave. He lied to her. And he says, look, I just wanted to tell you, you were good. You were good, And I think at this point, you understand Omar a little bit, because you do need him to be a sympathetic character. This is a dude who, like a lot of us guys, who fall in love, I suppose women feel this too, that, maybe you're kind of out of your league. Maybe she's too good for you. And he's probably got some fears that if she knows just how good she is, she's going to leave the band. She's going to leave him. So, okay, he's a dork, but maybe an understandable dork. We have those kind of emotions, in our lives. So it's a nice scene, humanizes the characters, and their relationship is really central to the film. So you need to really establish that. And I think they do that here and elsewhere. As the scene ends, we see that they've been watched by Mock from his limo. So they go up to sort of make out point. It was actually, I think, called Thunder Row. And they're in a car. It looks like it's just an abandoned car up there. And their little, their make-up session is sort of interrupted by Toad. Not exactly what you'd want to see at that moment. He gives them an invitation from Mock. Won't you come up for a spell tomorrow night, Mock? Omar is not really interested, but Angel convinces him to go just the same. And here's maybe one of the problems that you do get with this film. There are a few areas that feel a little padded, maybe for good reason, maybe not. They kind of do this aerial shot of the band driving towards Mock's mansion, basically, with Angel's song playing. But like, it really just feels kind of like a still shot from way above the town. You can kind of make out the headlights of the car. think it could have been done better if it was more animated with them in the car. Maybe you could see what they're, from the looks on their faces, what they're thinking. But we do get this kind of cool and creepy image of Mock's house. Now you'll notice, and you'll see this more later when you get to see a better, view of Mock. It kind of looks like him. A lot of stuff Mock has kind of looks like him. Well, Omar is back in his pouting mode. He's not going to go in, so the other three are like, we're going. Because again, Angel thinks, look, this is like the biggest star in the universe, man. Like, he could do something for us. He could give us a shot. Well, when they get up there and the front door opens, look who shows up right in front. It's Omar. And he calls, it's easy. It's either Sleazy or Zip, or one of the other servants, and it's easy to get the two confused, at least early on. He calls him Mock. Mock, how you doing? I am not Mock, and so he's being a real pain in the ass, and he gets Zip and Sleazy to fighting with one another. You notice they do look very similar, and what you can't see there is they're always on roller skates. That's kind of their act. So Omar's work is done here. He's got people fighting, and he's been a pain in the ass. And like I said, it's kind of an ego issue with him, and Mock is going to push his buttons in a real big way. So Toad finally shows up and leads them to Mock, and he wants an apology from Omar. But before he gets it, Mock appears. Now you notice Mock swagger. Obviously, we got a little bit of Mick Jagger here. We got actually a little bit of David Bowie. In fact, if I was casting this live action, David Bowie is probably who I would have chosen for the role. And remember that he's not only Ziggy Stardust, he's also the leader of the Guild of Calamitous Intent. So I think even in animated form, he's the right guy. So Omar is real impressed, or at least he's trying very hard to not look impressed. And Don Frank's voice as Mock is just freaking awesome. It is perfect for the character. So he goes right to work on Angel. He instantly dislikes Omar. Feeling is mutual. We got a line from him, enough about them. Let's talk about you. What did you think of my last album? Perfect. We're talking about a narcissist here. And this really feeds into the character and what he's trying to do as well. It's not just let's make fun of rock stars, for the way they behave. And see, and Angel maybe is also seeing a chance to make Omar jealous, So anyways, Mock tells his boys to bring in the Edison balls so they can achieve a higher level of consciousness. Now, these are these sort of floating, glowing spheres, so they're like, you catch them, but they're kind of floating above your hand, and they kind of hypnotize you, as you can see. So this gives him a chance to take Angel for a stroll in the garden, gives Mock a chance. And there he makes his pitch to Angel to join him in his little scheme. She rejects him, so he resorts to simple kidnapping using his sort of techno wizardry. And there's some really cool animation in here. It's like this video of Mock singing, Triumph to the Glory, that is me, written, produced, and sung by Lou Reed. And so Mock, at this point, and that's like what the guys are watching while they're sort of zoned out with this Edison ball. Mock takes off then for Nuke York, with Angel in this badass airship, which you will see from other angles also resembles Mock. And the guys end up dumped in their car by Toad and his brothers, and sort of kicked down the road. It's kind of a hover car, ends up crashing in this fountain. And there's the cop, who's obviously not real thrilled with these guys, but since their car is now wrecked, well, they need another one. And so they manage to trick the cop and get into his car and go. And now here we get this musical interlude as they drive from Ohmtown to New York. Again, though, you don't really see much of them in the car. It's sort of outside shots. it's kind of cool, but again, I think it's, it sort of slows things down a little bit, but we do get this really cool image of this light bridge. So you get to a certain point that trips it, and this light shoots across, and then the car goes across on the light. So there's some cool stuff in there. Well, they finally get to New York, and it is closed. And this guy sort of has a John Wayne sound to his voice. He's not going to let him in because there's a blackout in New York. Seems like this is maybe a frequent thing. So Omar tries to con his way past the guy, and that gets them arrested. Okay, so now we have we go through some of New York, and we see this sort of tower. You can see the airship up there, that this is like Mock's penthouse. Very cool, nice design. And Angel's being held in the tower. Hey, very, that's very appropriate, right? Overlooking the ancient Radio City Music Hall. And she's watched over by I want to say they're the Schlepp brothers, I think. I'm trying to remember now. Toad and his brothers. And, they're not letting her out, and she's PO'd, and there's not a lot she can do about it because she's not that big and they're huge. But it turns out the brothers have a sister named Cinderella, or Cindy, who sort of falls into the room through the air duct. There we go. And, that's how she moves around secretly through this complex. And it's how she manages to get out to go dancing, because Toad doesn't want her going out. There's guys out there waiting for a sweet little thing like you. You can see she's not that little. Angel cons her into taking her out dancing as well. And so they're crawling out through the air duct system, and Angel overhears Mock in his bizarre little outfit there, talking to his computer about having the voice, and that Angel, obviously the holder of the voice, must sing a particular series of notes to create the doorway through which the being can enter this dimension. And Mock exults that nothing can stop him now. But the computer corrects him, and it looks like a giant brain back there. Very cool. There's something that can send the being back. One voice, one heart, one song. Well, Mock wants to know, who is this person? The computer starts searching and finally comes back with no one. No one can send the being back? Perfect. So Mock is happy. I'm good. There's a way, but nobody possesses that voice, so we're good to go. So Angel and Cindy escape Mock's little palace there, and then we pan across the city, overhearing a radio announcer say that Mock is going to play a surprise show at Carnegie Hall. Show's called Beauty and the Beast, and this leads us to a tattoo parlor and our heroes. This lady here is Dizzy's aunt, or should we say Alphonse's aunt? He's like, oh, don't call me that. And so here we actually get Omar kind of admitting that he's concerned about Angel. He's not just PO'd at Mock for what he did to him. He's one of those guys who has a hard time admitting his feelings. They exist. So their aunt clues them in on Cindy and where she hangs out, and tells them they'll know her by the winged heart tattoo on her butt. And honestly, I think they probably would have picked her out of the crowd anyways, since she looks an awful lot like her brothers who they've met. So that's good. They got a lead to where they can maybe find Angel, because at this point they're just like, we got to figure out where Angel is. Okay. The guy in there who's getting his head tattooed while they talk, who is voiced by Maurice LeMarche, the brain. Yes. He clues in Toad about Cindy sneaking out to the disco. Club 666. That's bad. It gives Mock a chance to set a trap. And for helping them out, comes to a rather sticky end. So we finally get to Club 666, and there's really some amazing stuff in this sequence of people dancing. You got Earth, Wind, and Fire playing. Great shots. And I remember when I was younger, I had the videotape of this. I think it was rental, but I would play it, and at certain parts I'd pause, and you could only pause the videotape for so long before it would like either just start playing or shut down. And I'd have a big sketch pad, and I'd be trying to draw, like copy the images because they were just so amazing to me. So this place obviously is sort of reminiscent of Studio 54. I think that's kind of what they're going for. Here you can see it's like an anti-grav disco. We got all these people. Again, you could see that like the work of Ralph Bakshi had a definite input here. Well, you could definitely see it has an input there. We got, this guy getting groped by Cindy. You do see one guy who's like, looks like he's snorting, cocaine. We got her. She's kind of doing this little move, etc. So the guy's zoned out. Well, at a certain point, Stretch, runs into this lady who's not real thrilled with him being there. And he sort of gets, like kicked across the room by her. I remember that's one of the images, her face, that I was trying to copy way back when. I just thought that was really, really cool. And so you got Dizzy, trying to find Cindy as well. So anyway, Stretch gets knocked across the room, and he looks up right into that tattoo that they're looking for. Now, at this point, though, they go, oh, we found Cindy. They don't know that Angel is there with her. And obviously, from his point of view, he couldn't see Angel or anything else. So Cindy kind of grabs him and throws him as well. He ends up behind this table, wearing Dizzy's glasses there, and Dizzy has his hat on. They have to trade. So he's like, look over there. That's the lady we're looking for, and she's sitting with Angel. So wow, this is even better than they thought. We found her. We found Angel at the same time. We get this brief dance sequence with Cindy and this little dude. Sort of a pop punk song going, kind of cool. And while this is happening, we glimpse Angel being snatched away by somebody. And then Cindy spots Toad telling her it's time to go home. I love the look on her face here. It even gets more, she kind of pulls her face in. She's so upset. So the whole sequence is kind of pulling together some disparate threads, the sort of beginning of the end, so to speak. They're so close yet so far away. And we get the sequence of him following Cindy out of the club, and into the fog shrouded streets. I should say Omar. And so it's a lot of chaos. It's a lot of hidden things. So Omar's out there trying to find Angel. He's calling her name. And when he thinks that he's finally found her in this, like a kind of a warehouse, looks abandoned, he finds her laughing at him in the arms of Mock. And so this crushes the dude. He screams. He can't believe it. It's done really, really well here. It's like every guy's worst nightmare, when he's in love with a woman, that there's going to be that kind of rejection and betrayal. And so he kind of runs off. But again, it's all another lie. Mock is all about illusions. He's all about deception. He's all about lies. Well, think about his name, Mock. He's a mockery of God, frankly. And so it turns out to be this woman who's kind of a chameleon. She's wearing this mask and imitating Angel. All right, so back at Mock's, Angel refuses to sing, and Mock is trying to convince her with his honeyed words. And when that doesn't work, he uses force. He's captured the boys. He's got him in this sort of anti-grav contraption with lasers. So she agrees to sing. Says, you're totally crazy, and he thanks her. And the boys are sent away home to Ohmtown, but once again, they're zoned out of their minds by Mock. And Angel swears she's going to get them out of this, and they're kind of like, okay, bye, and off they go. So Mock gets his way, has his concert at Carnegie Hall, going on as planned. Angel's voice is going to open the door. And we see some disturbing flickering images of the concert and a white blast. And then we see And it's made to look kind of like it's on video or like on a video screen. This reporting that Mock's concert was cut short by an explosion caused by a power overload. Survivors describe the destruction as evil, spooky, and like, wow, bad karma, man. Mock wants answers, and the computer provides them. The power system in New York was insufficient for their purposes. So the good guys get a reprieve here, but he's going to try again because there's a sufficient, stable power source in Ohmtown, where he happened to send the boys back. So we fade into this music video here. My name is Mock. Thanks a lot. Very cool, actually. Again, I believe written, produced, and sung by Lou Reed, at least from one of the credits. We get this close-up of lips that does bring to mind the Stones a little bit, and Jagger. And then we get this really bizarre sort of cartoon called Uncle Mikey that's being watched by Zip. And Uncle Mikey is lecturing the kids about good and evil. So Zip asks Mock, can you tell the difference between good and evil? And this sort of drugged up Mock prevaricates, well, there is no, definition really of good and evil. We must all have our own definitions. So this guy is like the definition of demonic. It's sort of the satanic concept, right, of trying to supplant God and, set up your own rules for reality. And so, to be honest, it still happens to this day quite a lot. And, if you look like this dude while you're talking about there being no such thing as good and evil, pretty likely you're actually evil. That's a helpful hint from dear old dad. And so Zip doesn't really understand what Mock is saying, but he does understand Uncle Mikey, who tells the boys and girls, be good. It's really bizarre. It's well done, though. So then we get this little cool momentary interlude with Angel at the piano in this kind of cathedral-esque looking room in Mock's airship. And she takes this stab at seducing Mock to stop him. Just us, you and me. And Mock, yes, me. That's who he is, but he's not fooled. And Angel again declares that she will not sing. She sees him for what he is. He's a fraud without all of his fancy equipment. He has no magical powers. He's not really some kind of wizard. It's all just fakery. And he cannot get what he wants without her. And so he throws this huge temper tantrum. Oh, he's going to get what he wants. Now, down below in Ohmtown, Omar and the guys are still zoned out. They're singing this really goofy song, about like Ohm, Sweet Ohm, something like that. Mylar is like, for crying out loud. And he's like, you guys blew it because you didn't do what I said. You needed the duo, the guy and the girl. So Mylar might actually be smarter than he looks here. So then he's like, okay, I'm out of here. I got something a real concert to MC. Mock is playing tonight at the power plant. Okay. And we kind of get, again, the kind of lightning and stuff going on here with flashes. So the concert begins. You see this sort of floating, almost demonic looking, bat looking thing that Mock is up on top of playing. Actually, he's playing something that almost looks like the, one of the instruments from that Buck Rogers episode with the rockers, the space rockers, which is an absolutely amazing episode. But it's also kind of sounds like a pipe organ, right? So the pipe, the organ, like the Phantom of the Opera and all it's like they do a really great job of taking these old ideas and tropes and working them into this more futuristic looking setting. So Angel is below, secured to what looks kind of like a demonic altar. She's kind of swaying like she's been zoned out as well. And then arches her back as the item, there's like this thing around her neck that glows. And it's like forcing her to sing against her will. And these lasers, Mock has these lasers forming a pentagram. So you kind of get what's going on here. And the lights start to flicker and Mock is angry, right? And we hear Toad up in this control room yelling, "We need more power." So Toad hits this button, and this tower rises up out of the power plant into the stormy sky and draws down the lightning. So very Frankenstein, again, very mad scientist. And this causes like this overload, and you got electricity flowing into ohmTown, shattering streetlights, and finally electrocuting our heroes, which is kind of hard to tell here. It is hard to get a good still shot of this, but it zaps them and it snaps them out of Mock's spell. And they see a poster for this concert, but Omar is out. I saw her with Mock, and Dizzy's like, dude, you got to trust your heart and not your eyes, and Omar has this realization of like, you're right. I'm being an idiot. Just as the fat cop shows up again, which is fortuitous since these guys needed a car, and off they go. They head for the power plant as things begin to heat up at the concert. The visuals through here are stunning, which is why, even though I'm kind of showing you what happens, you got to see what happens in this animation. It's really pretty amazing, and they're going to get even crazier looking. So we got like that pentagram with the lasers starts kind of going up, right? At this point, the guys burst into the power plant in the car, and we get like this overhead look here of the pentagram. You can kind of see where Angel is up in that top area there where she's chained, okay? And then the thing starts coming through the portal, and it shifts and it morphs, and it's really amazing the way they do this thing. And it looks like, it's painted a different way than everything else in the animation. So it gives it this otherworldly look, like this is something alien and horrible. And Angel looks as Mock is exulting in his triumph here. The guys are on their way, and there starts to be screaming in the concert hall as this thing finally explodes up through the portal. And you could see, it's kind of amazing. It kind of reminds me of like stuff you might see from, really classic Warhammer, when we're talking like the really old days, before it got a little more organized, a little less crazy, right? John Blanche, when he was doing, art for it and stuff. So Toad puts on these crazy sunglasses. He enters. Oh shit! Like even he wasn't really ready for what this is. And we see Diz is like going, "What is it?" Oh no, I'm sorry. Stretch goes, "Diz, what is it?" And he just goes, "It's evil." And it's really amazing work here. Really amazing work here. It begins grabbing people from the crowd, from the audience, and like swallowing them. And Zip looks on horrified. Remember those musings from Uncle Mikey about good and evil? Mock is just exhilarated. He's bathing in the triumph. And then, as the creature looks down hungrily at Angel, who's clearly meant to be kind of like a human sacrifice here, there's this piercing rock and roll scream. And we see Omar up there with the guitar. And I got to be honest with you, when I was a kid and this moment happened, it kind of put a little chill, up the spine. Like, wow. And here I am, like 40 something years later, 35 years later, whatever, prepping all this stuff. And I get this moment and I'm like, kind of puts a chill, right? It's the same for me as when I'm watching the 78 Superman movie and we first see Superman being Superman. And you're just like, oh, it just works, right? That's what this scene is for me. Absolutely amazing. So he frees Angel by severing some kind of like power cord with the guitar. And as he faces the demon, it launches this demonic face from its own mouth at him. But before it can hit Omar, Zip stands in the way and takes the hit, and it shoots him way back, and he hits this wall, right? And Toad is down there, "Oh, Zip, what did you do it for? For Uncle Mikey and us." We ain't evil, are we? Dude, it's actually, you can laugh. It's actually pretty touching. It's like a really cool moment, and Toad ain't taking it well. And Mock obviously is in trouble here. Even though he doesn't know it yet, he is laughing maniacally because he knows he cannot be stopped. There is no one who can sing this thing back into its dimension, back into hell. And it's then that Angel decides she has to try. She's sort of comforting Omar, but she's like, listen, man, somebody's got to do something. And so she stands before this massive writhing mass, this demon, and Omar's yelling to her, Angel, run, get away. And she's like, no, I sang this thing into, our world. I'm going to sing it out. And she begins to sing. It's that song from the beginning of the film. And Mock sort of looks bemused, like, well, what does she think she's going to do? And the demon takes notice. And as she sings, the demon closes in on her. And then Omar joins in, and the demon begins to recoil. And I'm a goofy romantic, but I freaking love this scene in the movie. It's power of love against the power of evil, man. And I don't care if it makes me a dork, because I love it. And it's sort of, remember, no one voice. Okay, no one voice. Their voices together. One heart, one song. That's the formula. And the demon begins to writhe. And Mock is like confused, and he's screaming as the demon is sucked back through the portal. And he's going, oh, they can't stop you. And as he's trying to scream incantations and play that pipe organ and thing, he turns to see Toad coming for him. And Toad just says, my brother's dead. And he grabs Mock and he casts him down into the pit. And Angel and Omar continue singing as Mock makes this last desperate attempt to crawl out of the pit to escape damnation. And he says, one voice, one heart, one song, but there is no one, as he loses his grip and disappears, and the portal closes. Hell yeah. Dude, great friggin' ending. And again, you gotta watch it and you gotta hear it. I can describe it to you. I can tell you how much I enjoy it. Totally worth watching. And of course, the crowd roars and the song continues as Mylar lets everybody know he put these two kids together. I discovered them. And we see the sun rising on the power plant in Hometown down there, and roll the credits. So, just to me, an absolutely incredible little movie. Again, it did remarkably bad in the theaters, but a lot of that had to do with Paramount. They didn't know what to do with it. And it's just the same way Disney kind of dumped the John Carter movie and kind of dumped Rocketeer. Movies that probably should have done a lot better. But this has become a sort of cult thing. God, I would love to see this re-released into a theater. I would be there. I can promise you I'd be there, because I've only ever seen it, like on a small screen. But really great. The music's good. There are a few places in it that lag. It's not a perfect movie. It really isn't, but a lot of creativity, good animation, great backgrounds, great design. The whole demon sequence is friggin' amazing. So, rock and rule. Hey, I salute you, Canada. This may be your greatest export. I mean, there's maple syrup. That's pretty, John Candy. It's one of your greatest exports. Thank you, Nelvana, for making this. And if you haven't seen Rock and Rule, give it a try, man. It's a really, really cool, fun cartoon. Just a lot of great stuff in it. All right. That'll do it for this one. Let me know in the comments what you think of Rock and Rule. If you've seen it, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and I will do my best to answer those questions. And I'll try to avoid, ruining anything for you that I haven't, kind of already ruined. Look, it's a pretty simple plot when you get right down to it. It's all in the execution, and the execution is fantastic. If you enjoyed this little video review, please give it a like, maybe think of subscribing, maybe share with a friend. I would really appreciate that. But until next time, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. Watch Rock and Rule. And I will see you hopefully again soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.